Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Derling, and I'm joined by a very special guest, Peter Kerr from Rock Daydream Nation. Hello, Peter.
Hi, Tim. How are you?
Doing great. We've been talking about this episode for a while. This is kind of a
Absolutely.
follow-up episode for me because one of my very, very earliest episodes way back in 2014, I was going through my Whitesnake vinyl. I didn't, I was missing a lot, and I've got a lot more since then. And Peter and I were talking. Obviously, we've done Whitesnake episodes on his
Yep.
channel on the Contrarian. So I said, "What have you got for Whitesnake vinyl?" He said he's got some. So I thought we would go through both of our Whitesnake vinyl collections, and I'm really, really excited to see which versions of the albums that Peter has. I'm missing quite a few towards the end, but it's a pretty solid collection. I think we hit a lot of the high points here. So Peter, we talked about this too. I thought it would be interesting if we started with David Coverdale's post Purple pre Whitesnake when he did a couple
Sure.
of solo albums in 77 and 78. So what have you got
Absolutely.
for Whitesnake or North Winds?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for the opportunity of having a chat with you. All right. Well, it starts off with David Coverdale Whitesnake, and this is on a local label. It's on the Interfusion label. Don't know if you can see that. And I'll get
Yeah.
I think it's always good for the viewers just to see what
Yeah,
that
I like
is.
seeing what the label looks like. Yeah.
Are you familiar with this label?
I've never
This
heard
was
of it,
through, yeah, a
but
local record company.
I do know that yeah, this album pretty much was licensed to different labels throughout the world because in Canada it was distributed by a company called Attic Records, which is a fairly well-known indie label here. And the 8-track version of that I have is on a French label called Vogue. So yeah,
Right.
it wasn't even though he was part of the Purple family, it wasn't automatically on like EMI or Warner Brothers. So yeah,
Absolutely. It wasn't a big selling album,
no,
but it's on a variety of different labels. But
yeah,
it's really nifty. It's got the inner sleeve and the lyrics,
yeah.
which I always like to see. And as you'll see through the early albums, I always like seeing if there's any merchandise pamphlets,
Oh
because you
yeah.
used to get these little pamphlets where you could sign away for the tour program or
Yeah.
the tour T-shirt, whatever was happening in the game. But yeah, that's a. I'm pretty happy with that, and it's a nice clean copy. I picked it up at a record fair, and that's David Coverdale's Whitesnake. And
White White
yeah,
Snake, two words, White
yeah,
Snake.
Whitesnake, and you've got interesting lineup of players on this album. You've got Mickey Moody, who
Yeah.
was brought into the original and the famous Moody, Marsden, Murray, Pace, etc. Lord lineup. Simon Phillips on drums and
Wow.
Roger Glover on bass. So
Very
a
interesting.
really interesting. It's a very eclectic type of album. It's nothing. I mean, there's kind of some hints of what it was going to be later. It's bluesy, but it's very low key. What do you think of it, Tim? Do
Well,
you
the
agree?
early
It's a
stuff
bit
is
very low key.
yeah, it's low key. It's very R&B oriented. It's yeah, there's nothing really particularly rocking on it. There's definitely nothing on it you'd call heavy, but it is the roots of what would become the early Whitesnake sound. It's interesting that Roger Glover's on it because David and Roger were never in Deep Purple together. So it's just kind of
Yeah.
interesting there. So the version that I have, I also picked up at a record expo, but mine's a little different. This is a 2-record collection. Yeah,
Yes, it's the next one.
it looks like you've got the exact same one as the Connoisseur collection. Yeah,
Connoisseur, English label.
yeah, and so this is a gatefold, and this says the liner notes say February 1988. So obviously this is once Whitesnake had hit big with the self-titled album, and so it was the time was right to reissue those first 2 albums, and I think basically side 2 of North Winds would be, or 4 of the songs of North Winds would make up side 2 of Snakebite. So
Yeah.
it's, are these Whitesnake albums? Are they not Whitesnake albums? They're definitely part of the Whitesnake story. I mean, especially that first album is called Whitesnake. You've got David, you've got a snake on the cover, but yeah, it's definitely more R&B, pub rock than would later come, but it is a gateway into the early Whitesnake catalog.
Yeah, probably my preference is North Winds. I think that's a stronger of the two. And you definitely got a maturity in the songwriting.
Yeah.
And a number of those songs, I think Blind Man appears on Ready and Willing.
That's
so
right. It was
he's
re-recorded.
really refining his sound. So that's probably the best
Yeah,
David Coverdale solo album.
I think
North
so. It's the
Winds.
best. It's the better of the two. So the
Yeah.
next one has been like some of the albums. It's issued in a variety of different covers. I got a pretty old Canadian copy of, I guess you could call it the first official Whitesnake album, Snakebite. So it says David Coverdale's Whitesnake along the top. Yeah, you've got. I actually like that one better. This is a Canadian copy on United Artists Records.
Nice.
And so this has the side one was essentially an EP that came out, and that had Come On and Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City. And then side two is 4 songs from North Winds, which had only been out just for a few months. And I'll show with the actual.
I do have the CD version of the of What You Have.
Yeah.
So the same cover, which I think was reissued around 87. Nice.
Yeah. So that's the United Artists version of Snakebite. Yeah, so when Geffen reissued all the albums, they reissued it with and actually the cassette of Snakebite doesn't even have that picture of Coverdale on it. It's just got the drawing of the snake and the red and blue background on it.
Absolutely. And to our viewers, if you want to see a first pressing of any early Whitesnake album, it should have United Artists or Sunburst. That's the rule of thumb for a first edition. But yeah, this is the UK version, which I really like. And there's some great tracks on this. I love the version of Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City.
Oh yeah,
I think that was a quintessential version of it.
That was like their first classic.
Yeah. So
I've always had a soft spot for the song "Keep On Giving Me Love." I really like that one.
Come on. That's a nice little rocker.
Yeah,
like Steal Away if you like the. I like them all. Even
Steal Away's got some great slide guitar from Mickey Moody, and yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, and the lineup was very fleeting. You had Pete Solly on keyboards, so
yeah,
he's still around
on drums, and so you had Mickey Moody, Bernie Marsden, Neil Murray. So it was starting to solidify a little bit. It was the most stable lineup for a few years.
Theoretically, you could still get an original lineup of Whitesnake together because they're still alive.
That's right. So next up, also 1978. I used to consider this the first Whitesnake album. I never used to actually know, but this is Trouble, and the version I have is a UK version on Fame, EMI, or Liberty. Not sure which.
I've got United Artists. Sunburst.
Okay, so is yours an Australian copy or is it US?
It's a UK copy. I've also got the reissue, which was on the Fame. So this is probably a second or third edition pressing.
Okay.
Liberty and Fame, and this is a really this is an unusual one because
this is what the label. Yeah, I think we got the same one here because this is what mine looks like.
Now, have you heard about mispressings, wrong, incorrect? So if you look at this. If you can see it.
Yeah.
First side is Trouble Whitesnake, but when I flip it over, they've done a mispressing. Oh, sorry, I'll do it properly. And it has come up as Quiet Life Japan. So they did a mispressing.
Oh, the band Japan. And they're okay. Yeah, mine's doesn't have that on there. But that's really interesting. Also, the very edge of this record feels different than I'm not sure how to describe it, but it's very flat. Yeah, very interesting. So yeah, you I'm not sure how many copies would be like yours, but that's really cool. So that makes me wonder if there's not copies somewhere of the Japan record that have the Whitesnake label on them.
Yeah. Do you know if that, does that have a bit of value on Discogs?
I don't know.
In respect of mispressings and things like that.
I'll have to look that up. I didn't know that was a thing, but obviously they were on the same label and probably rolled off the pressing plant at around the same time. That's really cool. So next up, a very controversial album cover. So I'll just hold up, real quick. Love Hunter.
Yeah.
Mine's also a Fame EMI version.
Yeah, I've
And
got the UA.
You've got a United
United,
Artists one. That's really
Sunburst.
cool. And it looks the same. My vinyl looks the same as my.
And I've also got the Fame version as well.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So, which was the reissue label.
Yeah.
And I'm going to interject something in between that you mightn't have seen. I've got a BBC live recording.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
1979. And that's around that lineup. So that was transmitted on BBC Radio Live. It might have been off the Reading Festival. And it's a cracker. It's a real corker. That's when
so it's like a pre like a Whitesnake live album that's not like the Hammersmith or the Live in the Heart of the City.
It was
really cool.
one of those BBC recordings.
And those BBC recordings are generally really well done. I think if I'm not mistaken, some of the CD reissues have a few songs from some BBC recordings. I don't know if it's the same one that you've got. But.
Yes.
So next is the first Canadian issue I've got for Ready and Willing, 1980. I've always loved this album cover. It's very classy. And my version is on Mirage Atlantic. And as in a lot of Canadian pressings on the Warner Group labels from 80 to 84, they have a maple leaf up in the corner to denote that they're Canadian. So I like the silvery, the snake on the back of it. I just think it's cool, real classy.
It's really classy, and mine's on the Sunburst, and you've got the little inscription of EMI. You can see it nice and close up for the viewers.
Oh, I see that. It's embedded in there.
Yeah, that's on the Electro Liberty label.
More on that Electrola label very soon.
But if I like it when open it up, it's got the old, when you bought albums or reissues, and they have what else you can get on the
also available.
Label.
Yeah, those are cool. So this is what the Mirage label looked like. Very distinct.
Yes.
Not a lot of rock bands on this label. They had a lot of like dance and R&B stuff on this label. And the funny thing is that in Canada, a company called Unidisc has reissued a lot of these albums that were on Mirage Records. So it's easier than it was to get the early Whitesnake stuff on CD now. They're just in digipacks. But if somebody wants to get them, this Unidisc has made them available again.
Yeah. I've got another Sunburst Mirage version of this album, and this one actually has the inner sleeve.
Yeah, I've got that sleeve.
Got the lyrics, nice little silhouettes, photos.
Yeah, it's simple, but it's effective. It's cool.
I think but this one's got a bit of a cutout too. So.
So you've got, I've got a few of those. So you mentioned the Electrola label. This is the only 45 I have by them. It's Fool for Your Love. And I always like they take the belt and make it look like a snake. This is actually, it's got two songs on the B-side. It's got Mean Business from Love Hunter and Don't Mess With Me from Trouble. And this is on the EMI Electrola label. And although it's got the United Artists label on it. So very cool. And as we talked about it on your episode where we talked about our top 5 Whitesnake songs, the original Fool for Your Loving is just an unbeatable. It's just a great song. Can never tire of it.
Yeah.
So next is one of my favorite live albums, actually. And it's the first early Whitesnake album I ever got when I got into the band in 87, 88, Live in the Heart of the City. I'm curious to see what versions you have. This is the Canadian version on Mirage Atlantic. And they all have the Sunburst on them as well. There's the Maple Leaf. And this is just the 7-track album. It's not the double that mixes the Live at Hammersmith in. And it's got the same Mirage label as Ready and Willing. I
will go one step back. And this
you do have Live at Hammersmith. That's awesome.
Yeah, so this is the Japanese pressing with the all-important obi strip. I never get it, but it's apparently quite valuable when you've got the obi.
Oh, yeah, obi strips are always good to keep.
And this is really in good nick. And those Japanese pressings are to die for. I don't know what they do over there, but their pressings are divine. And the vinyl itself, it's on the Polydor label.
Yeah, and that's interesting because they weren't on
With a
that
little
label
sunburst.
anywhere else in the world. And oddly enough, that was also Rainbow's label in a lot of the world too, including North America.
But when you look at it, it's just got that shiny, glossy sheen, and it just plays beautifully if you've got a nice stereo. But this was the first album. People were buying it off imported around the traps, and I guess the demand was there that they had to put it as a general release. And that basically they decided that, well, what we've got to do is we've got to put this album out, which is a 2-for-1, which includes this album and a new really recorded one at Hammersmith in 1980. So this is off a French label called the Kerr label. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
Yes, Saxon was on that label, and that's so that's the 2 record set that combines. And I believe that the only song that's repeated is "Come On." I think there's 2 different versions of "Come On" here.
Yes,
because I've got my reissued CD of that has that same track listing. It's kind of neat.
Yep.
They delve into the Deep Purple with the "Might Just Take Your Life" and "Mistreated," and make those part of the. Of course, by now you've got half of that band was in Deep Purple.
Absolutely. And I've got a version of this album where it's not, there's no fold, but you've got the 2 albums in there. And interestingly enough, there's all the inserts that have just come out, which was in the double fold. And I think I've got a merch flyer, which I was talking about. Do I have a merch flyer? I thought I did. Let's make sure.
When you get ones that have all of those original inserts, you found whoever owned that before took really good care of it and kept everything that was supposed to be with it.
I thought I had one anyway. Okay. Yeah, so that's that version. And I've also seen a version in Australia, which I don't have. A friend of mine had, which was the live album, which was just the 1980 Hammersmith as a single album. So I think it was released in Australia as a single album.
As a single, yeah. Well, Whitesnake weren't as big in North America at that time. So I guess it didn't make any sense to expect people to pay twice as much. It's funny though, because I one thing I haven't seen many of is, Geffen reissued the bulk of the catalog in 1987. They didn't reissue Ready and Willing. We've talked about that before. That one didn't get reissued, but so they reissued them on, I had the cassettes and then I ended up getting the CDs. I've only ever seen one of the Geffen reissues on vinyl, and it's Live in the Heart of the City. I don't have it, but I've seen a Geffen reissue of it. It looks just like if you've got the 7-track version, it's just got the Geffen logo on it. Yeah. So next up, come and get it. My version.
Favorite album.
Yeah, that's right.
I love it.
And my version is another Canadian one on Mirage. The last one, I believe, on Mirage, because I do not think, someone can prove me wrong, I don't think that Saints and Sinners was ever issued in North America in 1982. I don't think it ever came out until the Geffen reissues. I've never ever seen any evidence of it.
This was my first Whitesnake album I ever bought, and I literally cannot play it. The grooves have worn. And awesome. I'll share the story. I went to the record store and I had the choice between picking this and Innocent Victim, which is a Uriah Heep album, which has a snake. So I was choosing between the 2 snakes.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'll pick this. And there goes my journey with Whitesnake. I could have been a Uriah Heep fanboy if I went down that
I've always
journey.
thought that Innocent that cover looked like it could have been a Whitesnake album.
Yeah. I've got another first pressing or a more current pressing, and this it's nice shiny pressing. It's got the Atlantic, if you can just see it. Yeah.
So you've got
nice and shining.
That's the same Mirage label as mine.
Yeah. Hardly ever played. But I think it's a great album. I love the album cover.
Yeah. So the next one is one that took me quite a while to find on vinyl. I've got a kind of a cool version of it here. So Saints and Sinners, 1982.
Yeah.
The version I have of this is a German copy that I found at a record fair, or a flea market, actually. I found it at a flea market, and it's on Liberty. What's different about mine is that it's got this thing in the corner that's got some UK tour dates on it.
Nice.
And that's not a sticker. That's part of the sleeve. So I always thought that was really cool. It also came with the original sleeve. It's nice when that happens, because it doesn't always. And the label itself is this same color as the United Artists label. I think Liberty basically is the name change from United Artists, but so there, that's the long time version of, and actually this has a stamp on it. I don't know if you can read that or not, but it says Pete Collin disc jockey. So this must have belonged to a radio station at one time.
Interesting.
So yeah.
Well, I'll one up. I've got exactly the same copy as yours, without the German thing. But yes, there we go.
Oh, there's your merch form.
Yeah, the merch form. And I agree. The person who had this record really looked after it. And I've got a couple of those T-shirts.
Now it's
do it
cool.
on another episode.
Yeah, it's cool because any albums I've ever had that have a merch, they either have the merch form in it in perfect shape, or they don't have anything. I've never seen one that was partially filled out or cut out. It's all or nothing. No pun intended.
Yeah. And then this was the version I got in the wild. I actually bought in Australia in the 80s.
So there, it's got the gray Liberty.
Yeah.
Because that actually looks quite, the printing is a lot like the one I have, except it's gray. Actually, my first couple of Queensryche albums have that label on them. It doesn't say Liberty, but it says EMI USA, but it's the same shade of gray on it.
And picture disc. I think it's always good. We always love picture discs.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. That's the Saint and Sinner picture disc, and the iconic. I love this photo. That really sums up David Coverdale.
Tellingly, though, it's the only sort of band member photo in this album. There's a tremendous amount of disarray.
Transitional period.
Yeah, which would only continue, I think, really throughout the rest of the decade.
Absolutely. But, so I like picture disc, but a lot of hi-fi people say they're not really the best quality, but
no, and I'm told that
plays well.
They won't hold up to as many plays. I've heard that too. I've got Toto Isolation and Yes Tormato on picture discs. I really don't have many of them. I never come across them.
Do you play them much or?
No.
Yeah.
So next up is the Big Breakthrough album, internationally slided in. I've just got a Canadian copy on Geffen, and mine has the sleeve with it, and the label itself is this whitish label with the big silver G on it.
I don't have that. I don't have that version. I mean the big G.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's the first Geffen one that I have.
Look, I tell you what, Tim, I've got so many different versions of mixed media on Slide It In. It's just ridiculous. So here's the single, Give Me More Time.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So still going as a 6-piece band.
And Need Your Love So Bad, which is just an absolute killer.
Yeah, it's a Fleetwood
Mac. David Coverdale vocal.
Yeah, it's a early Fleetwood Mac, Peter Green song. And it's just David Coverdale himself singing. It's really good.
And there you go. Look at him.
That's Guilty of Love. He has the handcuffs.
The First Degree.
Yeah. What a great song.
And
Gambler, another great song. A great album. Great album. I've heard both versions. I just like the album,
Yeah.
Any album that's got Love Ain't No Stranger on it is good enough with me.
Yeah, I did an episode of my show with Pete Jones, and I sort of said I'd like a mix of both. I can see both on. Yeah. They've got the pros and cons, but I probably lean towards the English version a little bit. Here's the US remix picture disc.
A lot of it is it's what you first heard. The first time I ever heard the album, I bought the cassette, the US cassette. I'm used to the songs in that order, because
Yeah.
I know they're in a different order on the other versions, and it throws me off. I'm not used to the album starting off with. Does the UK version start off with Gambler?
Yes, it does.
Because to me, Slide It In should start off with Slide It In.
Yeah, no, to me,
but it's a good
it's
album.
always been Gambler.
Yeah, in whatever
They
form.
were very photogenic then, weren't they? They
Well,
definitely all
that was the part of the makeover, right? The John
yep.
Sykes coming on board.
No beer guts in that band anymore.
No mustaches. No.
No beer guts.
Yeah.
And then I guess, Tim, I get into this is one of the later ones.
Yeah,
I've
got that on CD. That cover.
So many. This is the very latest version. So nicely put together.
Yeah, it's got the single sleeves on there.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's got Need Your Love So Bad, the bonus track. Yeah. That's a cool.
David shares a very funny story. Apparently the model fainted. She was petrified with the snake when they were doing the photo shoot. So there's all these different photos that have appeared on social media.
Yeah.
Here's the American version, and there's the magical Japanese obi strip. But this is different. This actually has David Coverdale doing spiels in between. He does commentary. So it'll have the song, and then he'll talk for about 1 minute and say, "Oh, we wrote this song because of this and that," and it's sort of like a record promo, but it's actually with David.
Sounds like it was
David
something that would have been sent to radio stations almost.
Yeah, so this is quite unusual. This is one where he does a little bit of a commentary in between the tracks. So
and what label is that version on?
That label is. There you go. I do have it. I don't even.
Oh, so it is on Geffen. Yeah.
There you go. I led you up the garden path. Sorry about that. There you go.
Yeah.
I don't even know what I've got.
That's cool. Yeah, I can see. Now that you mentioned that, I can see it's got like a long groove and then a really short one and then a long one and a short one. So yeah, that's really cool. I've never seen that before.
Bit of a curio.
Yeah.
It's just.
Of course, now that brings us to the big one. Mine's just self-titled. This is actually a Canadian Columbia House issue of the self-titled album. Self-titled where I'm at on Geffen, and it's got the seal on there and lyrics and credits on the other side.
Yeah.
And by now, the Geffen label looked quite a bit different. It was black.
Yes.
It looked like that.
I'll tell you what, viewers, when I first played this blew my mind. I got this day one when it came out in Australia, and just listening to Crying in the Rain, I thought, what the hell am I listening to?
That's really cool.
It was in a good way, because I'm used to the bluesy.
If you look at that, it's similar to yours, but it's different. If you look at where the actual logo is. Yeah. So I believe yours has the logo on top. So it's just kind of cool how different countries do that.
The single, Still of the Night.
Yeah.
And it's got the 1987 version of Here I Go
Again, which I've never liked. I've never liked that poppy.
Yeah. But it's like a twofer. It's a bit strange because you got.
You're going to break my heart again.
Yeah.
Which was not available in North America until the Greatest Hits came out in '94. Yeah. Same with what's the other one? Looking for Love. Neither of those songs were on the original 1987 release.
A picture interview disc with Mr. Coverdale, where he's talking about the whole writing process, and side 2, he's just bagging John Sykes.
Yeah.
It just couldn't work. It just couldn't work. There he is, this John Sykes and Cozy
Powell. Yeah,
it's strange they put Cozy because he didn't even play on the album.
No, he didn't play on the '87 album. It was Ainsley Dunbar. But it's funny. I used to get Cozy Powell and Ainsley Dunbar mixed up. I thought they kind of looked the same to me.
I know.
That was really confusing when I was getting into Whitesnake, watching the videos and thinking, well, who's that? Who's that guy? It's very.
He looks like a Marvel superhero. He's like 4. He's gone to the LA workout. He's had the blonde roots. Totally heroic.
Yeah.
But that's that. That's a nice little curio. I got the Record Store Day which came out a couple of years ago, the
That's
picture
cool.
disc.
That's cool. It says 1987 right on it.
There you go.
Yeah, there's some of the so I'm just reading the track listing for that. Still the Night, Bad Boys, You're Gonna Break My Heart Again, Straight for the Heart, Here I Go Get 87, Give Me All Your Love, Is This Love, Children That Cry in the Rain, Don't Turn Away. Very strange track listing. So it doesn't even have the hit version of Here I Go Again on it. And the
They
songs
keep on
are
mixing it up all the time.
wow, the songs are way mixed up. That's cool though. Never seen that before.
Yeah.
Huh.
So Record Store Day, that was always good. They have a few good things in Record Store Day occasionally.
Yeah. So next is well, you and I were both on the panel on the Contrarians talking about this album, and I showed this off, slip of the tongue, and mine's actually a sealed copy that I found used in the late 90s. So it's got the hype sticker on it, and this is a US Geffen version, and it has a little chunk taken out of it because it was
I got this on day one, but kind of a different reaction.
That's right. I highly recommend
say I hated it.
our episode of Contrarians where we talk about that, because the opinions are all over the place on. There you go.
There's the Geffen label.
Pretty standard Geffen label at that time. Yeah, my Aerosmith Pump record looks just like that. They would have come out within a month or so of each other.
That's that. I've got the box set of that. I've got the box set of Slide It In. I've got the box set of 1987. And that's a whole different journey because there's all these multiple different versions, monitor mixes, live mixes.
Yeah.
Another day.
So the next one I got to show, I'm kind of cheating a little bit because it's actually just came out in 2022, but I'm putting it 94 because that's when the CD first came out, and that's the greatest hits.
Oh, sorry.
Not yet. the greatest hits. So it's actually greatest hits revisited, remixed, remastered, and this has because this originally came out in 94 on Geffen. This is a Rhino reissue, and we probably get the exact same copy. It's got all the single covers, very, very cool package. But of course, this has stuff that's later than 1994 because it's got Forevermore on it. Other than that, though, it's pretty much similar track listing.
It's beautiful. It's probably one of my favorite reissues of the year. I know they're tinkering, but it sounds beautiful.
Yeah, it does.
And if you've ever wanted to hear some of those Whitesnake songs, 87, without gated drums, and it's organic, and it sounds like it should have.
It does. Because I've never been too big on that production. But so next up is the thing that you thought I was going to be talking about. We probably have the same version. This originally came out in 97. It's Restless Heart, the 25th anniversary edition. This never came out in North America originally. I ended up getting a Japanese import CD on EMI. This, of course, is a Rhino reissue. It's got great lineup on this album. It's got Denny Carmassi on drums, Adrian Vandenberg on all guitars for the very first time. I'm trying to remember who played bass on the album. Was it Guy Pratt? Is it?
Yes, he was.
So fantastic lineup on this album. It's a bit more laid back. It was originally supposed to be a David Coverdale solo album. That's part of the original Hugh Syme cover. But great album. I'm glad it's more readily available now.
I think it's killer, and I love that. I know he's still tinkering and adding embellishments and putting keyboards, but it sounds wonderful and actually sounds better.
His best ballads ever. It's just really good.
And he changed his image again, didn't he? He kind of dyed the hair.
His hair was dark.
Brown again.
He cut it quite short, and it was around this time, and I don't have it on vinyl. He did the Starkers in Tokyo with Adrian Vandenberg, just him and Adrian on acoustic guitar. It's really, really good. That eventually came out on the Unzipped. So what's the next piece of vinyl that you have?
I'm a little bit spotty because
I'm very spotty.
I've got a lot of CDs and a lot of different mixed media, but I'll put up what I've got. So got the Purple Tour.
Okay, see, I don't have that one on. I only have that one on CD.
That's cool. So I know you and I have had a discussion.
We disagree over the Purple album, but
I don't mind this album. I don't mind this album and sounds live, even though
Yeah.
David, you can hear his vocals
It's
aren't at its finest, but I don't
because
mind
of
it.
that, you can tell it's absolutely live. That's what was heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great track listing. Yeah. So the next thing I had was actually predates that. I happened to find this. It was in the front of a record store, but there was vinyl that was marked down. So I happened to find this, which came out in 2008. And I remember buying the CD as soon as I saw it. But this is Good to Be Bad. This was the comeback album, first new Whitesnake album in a long time. And this is just a UK version on SPV, which I don't even think it's either not in business anymore or it morphed into another company, but it's a 2-record set.
Yeah.
And
it's an Italian company, and that album went top 10 in the UK. So a bit of a return of fortunes, but I don't know, what does top 10 mean these days in regards to units
it
sold?
doesn't mean as much, yeah, because the next week it could have been completely out of the 200, right?
Yeah.
And the next thing I have is to date the last Whitesnake studio album, Flesh and Blood, which I actually quite like. I did a review episode of it. Although I will say at this point, I talked to Martin about this. You get all those CDs together, it's really hard to tell them apart. And I've actually been in stores picking up a CD going, do I have this? I don't know if I have this or not, because they're all like variations on this theme.
He's obsessed with that one. I actually do have that on vinyl. So my bad, it's somewhere in my house. But I do have that on both CD and in vinyl.
But I thought it was quite good. I did a review episode of it when it came out.
Yeah, I love track 1. That's a killer.
Good to see you again. That's classic Whitesnake. I like what he's doing on this album as far as picking his spots where he's going to use, do a bit of some vocal prowess. Sings quite low, raises it up in the chorus. He also makes sure that for the most part, the bands he has playing with him, the musicians, all can sing really well in their own right.
Absolutely. And he's got that rasp. He's doing like a bit of a Rod Stewart. He hasn't got the vocal chops to do the high register. So he's doing that Rod Stewart rasp.
But
and it works.
Yeah, even when he's singing low, he's still got that David Coverdale soul in his voice. He's got that going for him. And the only other thing I have from vinyl from Whitesnake is this. One of the many, the blues album.
That's my last one.
We both
I love this series.
The blues, the love songs, the rock album. Yeah, this is a great collection of songs. Yeah, some serious tinkering going on. But I think what Coverdale probably assumes is that most of us have all of the original versions anyway. So, why not play with the mixes some? So that's that is our Whitesnake vinyl collections. Pete, you got some really, really cool stuff. I enjoyed seeing the singles and just the variants in the record, the labels on them and the inserts. So this was really cool. So Peter's got Rock Daydream Nation. Please subscribe to him on YouTube. He's always got great content. He covers a wide variety of genres. I've been privileged to be on the show a few times. And and you've seen us both on the Contrarians. And Peter, thank you so much for doing this Whitesnake vinyl episode. I have a feeling there's more Whitesnake yet to discuss. So we'll have to, we'll do that at a later time. But for now, I want to thank everybody for watching this episode of Tim's Vinyl Confessions.
See you later.